Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm sharing a really simple birthday card using the very special stamp set from Lawn Fawn. I don't know about you, but I don't really like mice, except the Lawn Fawn mice. The moment that they release another one, I just have to get it. There is no exception. It's like the only stamp set that I'm really sure that I will buy is the one that they release with some mice in it. And this one just is the cutest. So personally, my favorite image from this stamp set is the one with the overall. He's really cute. But for the coloring today, I decided to give both mice the same coloring. Really simple with Copic markers. Depending on how you prefer coloring with markers, that's perfectly fine. Something that I do want to mention is that, well, I think it's already a few weeks now, but Sandy Elnock shared a video where she is coloring the same image 3 times in a different order with the same markers, where she is showing you that however you can use the same markers, the end result can still be slightly different. So I just wanted to point that out. If you prefer coloring in a different way, that it will maybe slightly be a bit different. Another thing that I wanted to point out is that even although I always color the same way, I can never make exactly the same card because the coloring will always be slightly different. So I'm always sharing my color combos on my blog post. There is always a link towards it in the description box here on YouTube. But in case you're using the same markers and your end result is a bit different, that might be just because you have another process in your coloring. But I truly found that the video from Sandy Elnock was really handy to just see how everything can just end up slightly different or completely different. So I'm going to show you as much as possible from the coloring. However, I will be repeating certain, well, images as you can see here, but the same colors I've used all over. So I will not show you everything just because it's a lot of repetition. And I think you quite know how to color this in. And then I'm up to the greens. So for the greens, I'm using yellow green 17, yellow green 03, and yellow green 00. This is one of my favorite combos for the greens because it's really bright, but it's not like really in your face neither. So it's really soft, but at the same time you have quite a lot of difference between the lightest and the darkest marker of this combination, which is just enough drama. So here for the shadowing, I decided to switch halfway to the other side, just because the mice will be on top of these borders. And so I just wanted to have the same shadowing as I used on the mice here as well. And then for the second border that I have over here, I will do the same coloring, but I will also skip that just to keep this video a bit pleasant in time. So I'm going over it. As you know me, I normally go over everything at least twice, depending on the size and whether the shadowing is enough from the start. And here, well, size-wise, twice is perfect. So that went great. And then, of course, I had to fiddle a bit. Some areas I did more shadowing than with the first layer. Others I just kept how I started. So I keep going back and forth until I like the blend. So even if 2 layers aren't enough, I can just add a third one, a fourth one without any issues. I'm using the Trenzotype Perfect Coloring Paper, and this paper truly allows to add quite a lot of layers if you need to. And if at a certain point the paper isn't grabbing the alcohol ink anymore, then you might just want to heat set the paper or just let it dry for a while, set it aside, and then it will be ready to go again. Next up, I just have that wood panel to do, so I'm just roughly adding a bit of this brown marker, and I will add a few more. But I'm not really taking into account the shadowing like I normally do. It's just all about those streaks and just letting it a bit rustic. And then later on I will add a bit of white heat embossing to add a sentiment here, to just add a bit more to my background, because it's a clean and simple card, but adding it will just be that slightly, well, that tiny accent on this card. So I used the matching dies to cut all of the images out, and I already laid out here the sentiment, but I decided to later on stamp it because I didn't know how much would be covered from this panel. So I'm first going to die cut everything and just get a lay of the land before adding that heat embossing. So after die cutting everything, I had all of these images and it was time to play a bit. I didn't want it to be too full, so one layer would also work, but I just thought that it was a nice idea to just be able to tuck that wooden panel inside of it and then play a bit with placement of the mice in front, in between, behind. That's why I added the second border of these berries. So I'm now heat embossing the sentiment on top of the wooden panel. As you saw me laying everything out, that one mouse is going to cover a bit of the right side of this panel, so I couldn't add the sentiment there, otherwise you wouldn't be able to read it. So that's why it's slightly off to the left side of the panel. But it's only an additional sentiment. The real sentiment is the "Have a Happy Birthday" that I'm going to add right underneath these 2 layers of berries. So therefore I wanted to lay it out to see where the sentiment would go exactly, but I also thought that this way it would be a bit white, the background, so I decided to draw just a really soft line there in between the berries, and then I could ink blend a little bit of my favorite distress ink right above that line, being cracked pistachio. So I'm adding that over there sort of to represent the sky, really subtle. Nothing more. I'm not using a stencil or anything, I'm just really softly adding a bit of color on the background. So I'm going back and forth, and as you might guess, this is sped through, of course. So I'm just making sure that I have everything above the berries in this color. And then I can stamp out the sentiment as well. You can decide where you want to place it. It would work in the center or on the right side as well. But I decided to add it on the left side. And then I will assemble this panel using all of the images that we colored in and some different types of dimension. So the first layer of berries I'm going to add straight on top of my panel using some liquid glue. The second one, however, I will put a bit higher up using some Darice foam strips. These are thin foam strips with a thickness that is sort of double the size of the thin foam squares, or maybe even more than that. But I wanted to tuck the other images in between using thin foam squares, so I needed an adhesive a bit higher than, or thicker than, the foam squares. And just these strips are really small, so it was really handy to put it everywhere on the back of this line of berries. There we go. And then we can add all of the other images as we placed them before. Also for the little mouse that is going to be in front, since it's on top of that higher layer, I need to use the same adhesive on the back of this mouse to have it at the right height. And it was a bit of fiddling, and before removing the backing I always try whether the height is working, whether I'm not adding any foam on the back where we don't have any space for that. So just fiddle a bit and then adhere it when you're ready for that. And then I decided that, well, although you can stop here, I contemplated whether I was going to add glossy accents to the berries. I'm not doing that because there is too much of an overlay on some of the berries, so that was going to be difficult, I thought. But I did decide, however, to add some, well, sprinkles. I first thought of some hearts because I just love heart sprinkles. But then I realized that I recently purchased these white clouds. These are from Pretty Pink Posh, and I purchased them because I thought that they would be nice on a baby card. But then here, since I have this simple background, I just added a bit of the cracked pistachio to represent the sky. I could also just add some tiny clouds to help with that background, I thought. So that's how I came to adding just a few of these tiny clouds. And they are so, so adorable. And I love it with the size of the mice as well. They add something without being distracting. So that's what I like about them. And once I adhered them on top of this panel, I just had to adhere the panel on top of a card base, and then this simple birthday card is ready to go. So that was my card for today. There are many ways to recreate this card with other stamp sets, but also just to recreate this card entirely because it's a really simple card to create, so also really quick if you need a birthday card. I want to thank you all for stopping by and taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you like the end result. If you have any questions, you can leave them down below in the comments. I want to thank you all for stopping by and I wish you all an incredible day. Bye!